Get this rolling here. Okay, everybody, welcome once again to the Meat and Potato Show, conservative talk and awesome rock. I am your host, Christopher Mader. And the candidate interviews continues even well after the Massachusetts primary, national primary, actually. And fifth time. I think it's the fifth time, John, you've appeared here on the Meat and Potato Show. And as always, welcome once again. How are you tonight?
Well, hey, doing great. Just trying to keep breathing clean air as we can. We got everything buttoned down.
Everything buttoned down. Yeah, the fire. Talk about the fire. That is one you were just talking to me a few minutes ago. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, we had a homeless person set the forest on fire, and and the whole thing is it's so dry around here. We can't afford to have a fire anywhere in California. And this one's burning in steep terrain. We've got, well, I think it says now 87,000 acres have been burned.
Jesus.
And there's no end in sight.
Right.
It's going to burn for at least 4 more days, and hopefully we have a frontal system that's coming in from Alaska, and hopefully we'll get enough water to where it'll stop. But who knows? We had the government send in 2 C-140, I believe they are,
yep.
Some sort of special firefighting gear.
Sure.
Actually, the federal government has actually stepped in to do something. I guess this is one of those things that they have. We just don't have the resources to do it all by ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. But California itself is just plain running out of money. And what's amazing is that these things happen all the time in California. Every time I see them on the news, I often wonder how much it's straining the budget that's already strained. I mean, it's strained to the point where, I'm sorry, there's just no money. And, I mean, how does it affect the local communities, and when it comes time to collect revenues for taxes and try to budget money for, well, you just said it was a homeless person. I mean, where's the money to budget proper care and help for the homeless people? It's causing them to go out into the forest and probably setting them on fire. I mean, there's just no money in there anymore.
No, well, here's how. This is what they do. Next year, maybe about 3 or 4 months from now, I'm going to get a bill in the mail, and it's going to ask me for more money to pay for a fire somebody else set. We had 2 fires set up here already, and on top of the property tax that I pay already now, I'm going to have to pay for more firefighting. So what they do is they come to us homeowners and get the money to fight the fire.
Really? They send a bill? What?
Yeah, they send a bill.
A specific bill, due to the fire, we are asking for an increase in your property. Well, how does this work?
It's an actual fire tax, believe it or not.
Wow.
It's signed for the fire.
Wow.
And we didn't start it. We've been trying to prevent everybody from starting it. We have to pay for it because somebody's got to pay for it. So.
Good Lord, unbelievable.
It is unbelievable because, well, I mean, look, if it's your house coming, the fire's coming to, I can see where you'd say, gosh, thank God, that they've got this going on. Fortunately, I've dodged a bullet every time. I've had one fire as close as about 3 miles away from my house. And this one is about, as the crow flies, about 12 or 13 miles away.
Right.
But it's headed east. So, but the way it's burning, it's burning in a parallel fashion, but it sort of looks like it's got a bubble at the bottom. So you've got a round circle at the bottom, and it's going up 2 parallel lines straight up towards Tahoe. But it could come towards Forest Hill anytime it wants to. It could come towards Placerville. It can go anywhere.
Sure.
So, you know how fires go. So
homeowners insurance must be insane out there in that part of the state.
Unbelievable. Well, yeah. Well, you've got this. A lot of people don't understand. It's kind of a joke what insurance actually pays for. I mean, they're not going to pay for earthquakes or if your house burns down because it's called an act of God because it's a forest fire.
Right.
So unless you actually go out there and purchase additional coverage, which is smart to do, and I know we did.
Yeah, it's just expensive.
And that say with like earthquakes, you have to have insurance policy. for earthquakes. Of course, we get them out here all the time. But I'm sitting on a granite dome, and I'm not going to worry too much about earthquakes.
Certainly.
I mean, it could be a ungodly massive earthquake. All I'm going to do is rattle.
So let's talk about everything that's going on. I am planning on heading out. You know, my initial training session here for my new job is just about coming to an end. I've got my new work assignments, and so I am going to head over to the election office and talk to them about getting the proper paperwork to start the petition to get you on the Massachusetts ballot. Now, I am completely naive and green on this. So why don't you describe a little bit what the process is, maybe out in California. Obviously, you must have done this out in California. But describe the process a little bit. It'll probably be different here in Massachusetts, but
Absolutely.
Just describe it.
Yeah, it is. Well, actually, the Federal Election Commission has its own rules for each state. Each state has their own rules. Basically, you can get a person on the ballot like one of two ways. One is either to go ahead and get petitions, and that's based usually upon the number of people that voted in the previous election.
Right.
So you have to have a percentage of those many people that say, hey, we want the guy on the ballot. Or in lieu of signatures, you can get a person, someone can pay money. That a lot of people, per whatever they work that out, whatever ratio it is per person.
Right.
To get the person on the ballot. The FEC does it at a certain time. It's sort of like you have to do it at a certain time, and it only lasts so long where you can gather petitions, the signatures, and then after that, there's a cutoff date, and you can't get them done.
Certainly. So
so the whole point is that every state is different, though. So when their cutoff dates is different. So we've got to keep track of the different cutoff dates and all that kind of stuff. Then some states allow you to be on the ballot just as a write-in. Of course, I was a write-in on quite a few states the last time. But and then also here's how we ended up getting Barack Obama, and what we're fighting tremendously in the courts to try to get somebody to do something about it. But the Secretary of State, from what we understand from the courts, and this is ridiculous. It's a W. Hubble shuffle, and it is kind of funny how they do it. But what they're trying to tell us is that the Secretary of State is not responsible for verifying whether somebody meets the requirements to be on the ballot. So if that means if I get enough signatures and I name my dog a candidate, he gets on the ballot, and you don't check to see whether or not. And you know what the law says. You read the law, but they do whatever they want anymore in this nation. Barack Obama was never vetted. Okay, if he would have been vetted, he wouldn't have been on the ballot to begin with. There's just no way. And but of course, the cases, all the cases I've had against Barack Obama, the ones that I filed, due to his eligibility, not a single one of those cases have been dismissed due upon the merits of the case. Now that means they never even looked at whether or not I was right or wrong, whether whether what he's doing is right or wrong. They just use the technicality to say we're not going to do it.
That's interesting.
That's unbelievable in itself. Even though we went to the Ninth Circuit and we got a ruling in our favor saying that if I was or anybody, a presidential candidate, could in fact question the eligibility of another candidate, and that they would have to do it. So we got the ruling from the court, then we go ahead and to apply it, then they shoot us down again. So it's just like everywhere we go, they shoot us down. So everybody has to understand that it's the parties, the way they do it is, it's the party nominates the person really that they want to be president. Doesn't matter where you get the signatures or not.
Yes.
If you want to be on the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, they could theoretically forget who the people want to be their nominee, and they could put in whoever they want to.
Certainly. I was talking to a guy, his name is Reed Chambers, and he does the Tea Party National Assembly, and I have to go through his email. He sent me an email with a lot of attachments, And it's about organizing the Tea Parties around the country through the various counties, the various states, and creating a situation where we basically have a state convention of Tea Partiers, and the state convention eventually goes on to a national convention where platforms are adopted, and we basically get senators and legislators to pledge to adopt the platform. And of course, if they don't adopt this platform, according to Mr. Chambers, he said, you know, we promise you we will run an opposing candidate from at any level, whether it be a congressional district or a senatorial district. And I'm wondering if this is a very good way. I've still got to read the bunch of the emails that he sent me, and I'm wondering if this is possibly the golden key that could unite all the Tea Parties across the country, and possibly back somebody, get somebody viable for 2016, and I'm going to look into it and see if we can couple that with the campaign, and just to see where they're going to go and see where we can go with that. What do you think of that idea?
I'm trying to. I talk to different Tea Parties too, and that's one thing that I found out quite rapidly. Right when they were forming the Tea Parties, I helped with the Sacramento. I helped get that one going. I was at their first rally at the Capitol building when it was taxed enough already. Really didn't have too much to do with politicians or electing anybody.
This is true.
We just got tired of being taxed for that. So, but I noticed how fragmented that the Tea Party actually is. There's no really central location to where they're not really a party. They call themselves Tea Parties. They're not a party. But, you know, I really don't really like the idea of parties to begin with. Not just because I'm having a hard time getting on them. It just is that parties have a tendency to lead to corruption. And right now, I mean, we've got a prime example of what we got going on in Washington, D.C. right now.
This is true.
We have an oligarchy. I mean, they call themselves what they want to call them. I don't care what they call themselves. It's what they are.
It is an oligarchy.
They are a tag team working together to control Washington, D.C.
It is an oligarchy. Yeah, and we all know it. Everybody knows it. They even know it, too. Yeah, and you're right about parties becoming corrupt over time. And, okay, let's just say, for argument's sake, that, okay, what this guy proposes goes through and things do get organized. I wouldn't doubt it. It seems to be the inevitable slide all the time that, over time, yeah, the Tea Party could eventually become too much of a political wing. You know, instead of voting on our principles, we end up voting this party line. And when he talked about, you know, we need to adopt certain platforms, I like the idea. Immediately a red flag went up in the back of my mind, thinking, well, you know, this is where it starts, where we adopt certain platforms. And if people don't follow the platforms, you know, sometimes we end up throwing out the baby with the bathwater at the same time. Well, this person didn't support platform number 3. Yes, but he supports the other 2 or 3 platforms that we put through, and he's a viable candidate. And I think, and anything but the crop that we have out there now, and that is a fear of mine. And you're absolutely correct on that.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, the entire system out there right now is corrupt from the top to the bottom. I say that every elected, appointed candidate, any career politicians out there right now, any judges out there right now, I dealt with both ends of the spectrum. I say they all got to go.
Yes.
They just all have to go. If they don't, then, and I'm talking about, and listen, I mean, I get so much flack out of this, I can't tell you, it drives me crazy. But even the Tea Party, they gravitate towards those same candidates that have been taking it to us
Certainly.
for the last 60 years.
Certainly. We
Here.
Yeah.
Just let's start fresh.
Yeah.
If not me, somebody like me, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. We just need to get back to what, you know, our founding fathers had intended, what they had hoped for, what they thought we were going to do, that we're not doing, and we're paying for it right.
I'm wearing my Mark Fisher for Governor T-shirt, and of course he was at the symposium. And what a great guy! He's coming on the show later on in early October, and there is you know, of course we've got Charlie Baker who's made it through the primary. He's going to go up against the Democrat machine that we have here in Massachusetts, and for party's sake, I'm going to obviously vote for Mr. Baker. Anything but the latest crop of communists that Massachusetts seems to bump out every single election season. But even, you know, in the primary, a lot of people from grassroots candidates, Tea Party people here in Massachusetts were all firmly backing Fisher. And I think the fragmentation that you talked about with the Tea Party caused the final voting to fall apart. I don't think there was enough people out there organized and energized to, you know, get behind an outside candidate. Because a lot of the people in our Tea Party group said, no, we're Baker people. We're going to go for Baker because, you know, he's got the backing, he's got the GOP stamp of approval, and we need somebody who's viable to go up against, you know, the Democrats that are going to be, you know, running here in Massachusetts. And I understand that because of the machine. But what ended up happening is we ended up losing possibly one of the greatest candidates for governor here in Massachusetts that I've seen in a very long time. And, you know, Fisher's a really stand-up guy, and there was a whole bunch of people that tried to start a write-in campaign. He immediately just went online. He told everybody to. He said, shut the site down. He said, don't do it. You know, let's get behind this. Let's get behind Baker. Let's try to win whatever victory we can win. But the point is that, I mean, I saw this guy go everywhere, and I wrote it in the blog piece that I published. I mean, this guy was everywhere. Right after the symposium, after we closed down, and I was there cleaning up for the evening, a friend of mine stopped by at about midnight or so, because he had dropped off his camera gear. He said, I can't attend, I've got something else to do, but here, take my camera, here's all the stuff. I want it on film, you know, for my YouTube show. I said, not a problem, John. Go ahead. And his name's John, too. I said, go ahead. Yeah, that's fine. He comes by at about midnight to pick up his gear. He says, are you listening to WCRN? I said, no, I'm not. I'm too busy packing up. And he says, Fisher's on WCRN talking about the symposium. I look at my watch. It's like 12:30. And I was like, that guy. God, that guy is everywhere. I mean, there's no way he can lose. And sure enough, I looked up on his site the next day. He had like 3 or 4 events in Massachusetts he had to go to where he showed up at every single one of them. And I've written that in my blog. He's everywhere. And he's answering the questions and he's talking to people and everybody loves him. And I thought to myself, this is probably why he was destined to lose. I mean, he won the hearts and minds of the people, and I think the established GOP just didn't like that. But go on. I'm sorry. That was my 2 bits on Mark Fisher.
Well, hey, I mean, that's the way it is. I mean, but it doesn't need to be the way. It isn't the way it has to be.
That's true.
It can be done completely different, and just people have to realize that if they really want their nation back, if they really want control back, they're going to have to take control back.
Now your site is picking up steam, picking up members. So why don't you talk a little bit about that too?
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I'm in that same, you know, boat. I mean, everybody loves me. I mean, I think, oh, you're the girl. Well, of course, you know, you run across people, you know, that are critical, but you know, I expect to, you know, find those people. I mean, everybody's different, and of course, they can't agree with everything of me. I mean, gosh, what are clones? I mean, we're not all clones. Right. We try to discuss these things out, but you know, I'll take anybody on my site, and I've got a lot of people want to help, and I think, I mean, there's thousands that want to help, they want to do something, but since we are those type of grassroots type people, we really don't know the ins and outs, and the people that I have to work with, I can't afford to pay them anything right now because people, you know, are reticent to even give a couple bucks, you know, here or there, just to help out. Mm-hmm. So we're always trying to think of ways that we're going to run the campaign where we can get my name out there where people see me with it. But we have to get past that point of, gee, God, we like you, we're ready to go, we're ready to do whatever we want. But then when it comes down to, you know, either cut bait or fish, more people, they don't even get into cutting the bait.
Yeah, they cut and bait and run, right, exactly.
That's right. And if we all just stood up there and just said, okay, we're done with it, we're going to show you what type of a mandate we're going to send to you. Mm-hmm. And what better way of sending a mandate could you do than the people, and there's your revolt right there. Mm-hmm. There's the peaceful revolt that would, I send so many ways to the world. immediately. That would prove what America's all about,
Mm-hmm.
instead of just another, I don't know, petty dictatorship. Because I feel like right now we're in the midst of a dictatorship. I mean, people don't believe it, but look around you. Look how your freedoms have been whittled away. Look how the government sticks its nose in every bit of your business that you got going on.
It's amazing that people don't. They're not paying attention either. And like I said, you know, Fisher ended up with 25% of the vote in the primary, and Baker with like 75% of the primary vote. And I thought to myself, really, only 25% for Fisher, and it turned out that a lot of people just aren't even paying attention, even though it's an election year, and it's a gubernatorial election here in Massachusetts. People are not paying attention. Oh, we only had something like 6% of registered voters actually vote. Isn't that horrible?
Well, hey, let me tell you about this.
Go ahead.
And I was flabbergasted when I figured this out. And you can replicate it yourself and do the research. It's not very hard to tell. I mean, just go to every past presidential election. We're talking about a presidential election,
yes.
not the
certainly.
Okay. Out of 100% of people that are eligible to vote, that means if you took everybody that can vote, that are eligible to vote, less than half of them vote.
Sure.
Okay, so now you take that half. Let no candidate get more than like 23 or 24% of that half.
Exactly. The half of the half. Keep going. I know where you're going. Keep going.
Now you're talking about the President of the United States is elected with less than a quarter of the available electorate out there to vote for.
And that's...
Every president,
yeah.
including Ronald Reagan.
That's it. And that's just the registered voters. We're talking, ladies and gentlemen, he's talking specifically about registered voters. He's not talking about the entire population of the United States or the over 18 population. He's only talking about registered voters. A prime example that you just said it, and it reminds me of a prime example, the Clinton-Bush election, and Ross Perot was in there. Neither one of them won a real majority vote. I think Clinton won by like 43%, and then Bush by like 42, and then Ross Perot came in with whatever number was left over there. But I'm looking at that, and I did the same math you did, and I thought to myself, I mean, a very small margin of people elected President Clinton in the 90s. I mean, we're talking a tiny margin of people. A few million people. Out of 300 million people in America, a couple million elected President Clinton.
And that's the way it turns out.
Yeah.
I mean, if everybody would just say, okay, hey, look, this time we're not sitting at home. We're not voting for Mickey Mouse. We're going to vote for anybody that isn't a career politician. And you'd have your country back in a second.
Certainly.
It wouldn't take much. It really doesn't take much, you know, to do it. It's not hard to vote, folks. It really isn't. You know, it's an easy thing to do. I do it every time myself. But I really do think that as I look on the political horizon, there's not too many real conservatives out there, if you really think about it. I mean, you know, everybody says Romney or Cruz or Paul, but
the same names.
All boil it down to it. Any of those folks, all they are rhinos.
Yeah, exactly.
That's exactly what they are, and you're not gonna get a change in policy. What you're gonna do is you're gonna get a change in just faces. That's it.
That's it. Titular heads. That's all you're gonna get a change in.
Yeah, that's it. And you're gonna get that speech, my fellow Americans. We have so many things and problems in this country to deal with. We all have to come together as a nation, and we have to work things out.
All right, hang on 2 seconds, John. I actually have to do a little technical stuff here. I'm noticing something going on here with the camera. We're going to pause for a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back with John Albert Dummett in 5 minutes. Hang on.